The umbrella. Such a simple object, right? A stick, some fabric, a few metal ribs, and suddenly rain loses its power over you. But what if I told you this ordinary object was once a symbol of power, luxury, rebellion, scandal, and even masculinity under attack? Because long before it became the thing you forget at restaurants and lose on buses, the umbrella was controversial, prestigious, and at times, socially dangerous to carry. And the wildest part is that this everyday object didn't just protect people from storms. It quietly reshaped fashion, social status, urban life, and even how entire societies moved through cities. So the next time you open one, you might realize you're holding a piece of history that once shocked the world. To understand why the umbrella mattered so much, we need to go back thousands of years, to a time when staying dry wasn't about convenience, it was about class. The earliest umbrellas didn't appear in rainy cities. They appeared in hot, sun-drenched civilizations. Ancient societies in places like Egypt, China, and Mesopotamia didn't invent umbrellas for rain at all. They invented them for shade. These early versions were called parasols, and they weren't meant for everyone. They were luxury items reserved for royalty and elites. If you saw someone walking with a parasol above their head, it wasn't just protection from the sun. It was a public announcement, this person matters. In some cultures, servants were tasked with holding parasols over nobles so the elite wouldn't even need to lift a finger. Imagine that level of status signaling. The object wasn't practical. It was political. And that's where the umbrella's strange journey begins. Because for centuries, it remained less of a tool and more of a symbol. In imperial courts, ornate parasols were decorated with silk, gold thread, jewels, and intricate carvings. They were closer to crowns than accessories. Some rulers even had laws about who could carry one. Certain colors, sizes, or decorations were restricted to specific ranks. Carrying the wrong umbrella could literally get you punished. That's how serious this object once was. It wasn't about weather. It was about hierarchy. But history loves turning symbols upside down. As trade routes expanded and cultures collided, the parasol began spreading westward. When it reached Europe, it didn't immediately become popular. In fact, for a long time, Europeans thought the idea was ridiculous. Rain, after all, was just part of life. People wore cloaks, hats, and hoods. Why carry a device when you could just tolerate the weather? Early European umbrellas were heavy, awkward, and made with oiled paper or stiff fabric stretched over bulky frames. They weren't convenient. They were cumbersome. And because they were associated with luxury cultures abroad, they were often mocked rather than admired. But then came one of the most fascinating twists in the umbrella's story. For a long time in Europe, umbrellas were considered exclusively feminine. That's right. Men didn't carry them. Not because they didn't want to stay dry, but because society decided umbrellas were women's accessories. A man walking with one risked ridicule. He could be laughed at, insulted, or seen as weak. Think about that. An object designed for protection had somehow become a symbol of fragility. Masculinity norms were so strict that getting soaked in the rain was considered more respectable than carrying a parasol. And then everything changed because of a few stubborn individuals who refused to follow the rules. In the 18th century, some men began carrying umbrellas anyway, ignoring the mockery. At first, they were ridiculed in the streets. People stared. Some even shouted insults. But persistence has a strange power. The more these early adopters used umbrellas, the more practical the idea seemed. Suddenly, staying dry didn't look weak. It looked smart. Slowly, resistance faded. What was once mocked became accepted. And what was accepted became normal. Within decades, umbrellas transformed from a social taboo into an everyday necessity. But acceptance didn't mean perfection. Early umbrellas still had serious design problems. They were fragile, expensive, and easily damaged by strong wind. One strong gust could snap the ribs and turn your expensive accessory into useless debris. That's when innovation stepped in. Inventors and craftsmen began experimenting with lighter materials, flexible frames, and new opening mechanisms. Metal replaced wood. Waterproof fabrics improved. Folding designs appeared. Each improvement pushed the umbrella closer to what we recognize today. This wasn't just evolution. It was engineering driven by everyday frustration. And here's something most people don't realize. The umbrella didn't just change fashion or convenience. It changed cities. Before portable rain protection, heavy rain could slow entire urban populations. Streets emptied. Travel paused. Commerce stalled. But once umbrellas became common, rain stopped controlling movement. People kept walking. Shopping continued. Markets stayed open. In a subtle but powerful way, the umbrella helped cities become more resilient to weather. It reduced friction between nature and daily life. That's a massive impact for something you can hold in one hand. There's also a hidden psychological layer. Carrying an umbrella gives a sense of control. Storm coming? No problem. You're prepared. That small feeling of readiness changes how people perceive uncertainty. It's not just a tool. It's a portable shield against unpredictability. And humans love tools that make chaos feel manageable. That's part of why the umbrella spread so quickly once it became practical. It wasn't only useful. It was reassuring. But the umbrella's story isn't just about progress. It's also about reinvention. Over time, it became more than protection. It became style. Designers turned umbrellas into fashion statements. Patterns, colors, transparent domes, compact travel versions, automatic open buttons, wind-resistant frames. Some umbrellas now cost more than luxury clothing. Others cost less than a cup of coffee. Few objects exist at such extremes of price while serving the exact same function. That's versatility. And yet, despite all its evolution, the umbrella remains one of the most commonly lost objects on Earth. Think about that irony. An invention refined over thousands of years, constantly forgotten in taxis, cafes, offices, and trains. It's almost poetic. Something designed to protect us from the storm can't protect itself from being abandoned. Maybe that's because we only think about umbrellas when we need them. When the sun comes out, they vanish from our minds. Out of sight, out of memory. There's also something fascinating about how universal umbrellas are. Language changes. Cultures change. Clothing changes. But the umbrella exists almost everywhere. From crowded cities to quiet villages, from tropical storms to light drizzles, the same basic mechanism appears again and again. Few inventions achieve that level of global adoption without drastic redesign. The umbrella did it while keeping its core structure almost identical for centuries. That's a sign of near-perfect functional design. And now here's the twist that most people never think about. The umbrella is one of the rare inventions that hasn't needed a technological revolution to stay relevant. No electricity. No software. No batteries. No updates. While other tools became obsolete, the umbrella stayed essentially timeless. It solved its problems so efficiently that it never needed reinvention. That's engineering elegance at its finest. So when you hold an umbrella, you're not holding a random everyday object. You're holding a design that survived empires, social revolutions, fashion trends, industrialization, and technological disruption. You're holding something that was once a royal privilege, then a social controversy, then a mechanical challenge, and finally a global necessity. Few inventions can claim that kind of journey. And maybe the most surprising thing of all is this. The umbrella's true power isn't that it stops rain. It's that it lets life continue despite it. It's a quiet enabler. A silent supporter. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beep, glow, or connect to Wi-Fi. It just opens, and suddenly the storm isn't your problem anymore. Which makes you wonder, what other everyday objects around you right now have stories just as wild, just as dramatic, and just as unexpected as this one? Because history isn't only hidden in monuments and textbooks. Sometimes it's folded up in your bag, waiting for the next storm. So tell me in the comments, what everyday object do you think has the most surprising history? And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories behind ordinary things, make sure you like, subscribe, and stick around, because once you start seeing the world this way, you'll realize nothing around you is truly ordinary ever again.